Why you're drawn to those who once pushed you away. It's not that these people are special. It's that in moments like this, most people start acting in the same predictable way, weakly and self-degradingly, without even noticing it in themselves. Today we'll look at how to stop chasing, in your own head, people who have already shown you their real attitude toward you. How to stop burning yourself out on empty hope, and how to hold yourself in a way that nobody's coldness, silence, or dismissal can knock you off balance anymore. This is about what actually gives a person back their weight, control, and self-respect. The main mistake after rejection. The most common mistake after being pushed away is trying to get through to someone who has already made up their mind about you. It feels like if I explain calmly, choose the right words, tell them what I felt, it will finally click. But usually it doesn't. Not because you explained it badly, but because the other person mentally left the story long before you realized it. This is where people start wasting themselves, writing long messages, replaying the conversation for the 100th time, trying to prove something the other person is no longer interested in. From the outside, this doesn't look like strength. It looks like begging for decent treatment where none is coming. The essayist Chamfort made a sharp observation. Almost anyone can endure hardship, but a person's true character shows once you give them power over you. That's exactly what happens here. When someone sees that you're still waiting, still hoping to be heard, they end up on top and you underneath. And the problem isn't really them. It's the position you put yourself in. The most uncomfortable part is that many people don't actually want closure. They want retroactive validation. They want the person who rejected them to suddenly say, "I was wrong, you mattered." But life rarely hands out scenes like that. And the sooner someone accepts this, the less they humiliate themselves inside their own head. What's really pulling you back? Usually it isn't some great love, and it isn't that this person is impossible to forget. It's much simpler and cruder than that. You're drawn to the place where your pride got hurt, where something was left unfinished. You're not drawn to the person. You're drawn to the moment you felt discarded, replaceable, not enough. Then the real confusion sets in. People call it feelings, but underneath it's usually a mix of wounded ego, habit, a craving for attention, and the urge to prove you can't treat me like this. That mix holds tighter than people want to admit. If it were only affection, letting go would be easy. But something else kicks in, an internal argument with reality. You don't just dislike the person, you dislike the outcome. You dislike that the story didn't end in your favor, that you weren't chosen. And that's what people cling to for months, sometimes years. One of the most costly mistakes in life is confusing longing for a person with longing to reclaim your own sense of worth. Until you separate the two, it will feel like you're drawn to them. In reality, you're drawn back to the point where you want to rewrite the ending. And that's a completely different story. The problem isn't the feelings, it's the struggle. After rejection, a person keeps living an ordinary life, working, talking, doing things, but their mind is occupied by someone else's decision instead of their own life. They start arguing internally, replaying small details, rehearsing different responses as if that could rewrite the past. This is where a person loses not the other person, but themselves. While you keep returning to the same moment, you're not moving forward, you're standing still. This is one of the quietest forms of self-degradation. Everything looks fine on the outside, while someone who has long since moved on is still running the show in your head. Epictetus put it well, people aren't disturbed by events, but by their opinions about them. What holds you isn't the person, it's the meaning you assign to them. Not the act itself, but the endless internal trial you never close. Real change doesn't start when you find the perfect comeback. It starts when you get tired of mentally standing in front of a closed door. People cling to the loss, not the person. Often what pulls you back isn't that the other person was some great prize. It's that things didn't go your way. Many people aren't holding on to the person. They're holding on to their own defeat. What they need isn't the conversation or the person. It's a different ending. To be the one who leaves, not the one left. To come out on top, not to be judged as not enough. Until this is understood, a person mistakes stubbornness for attachment, when really what's driving them is a simple refusal to lose. There's nothing noble in that. It's ordinary pride, just well disguised. Seneca observed that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. The story is already over, but the person keeps replaying in their head because they never accepted the result. As long as they're fighting the outcome instead of the person, they'll keep getting pulled back, not by love, but by pride and the wish to have the last word someday. Life doesn't work that way. Sometimes the only mature move isn't to win the rematch, but to stop treating someone else's exit as your own defeat. A honest test. There's a simple check most people fail. If you've gone quiet, step back, but secretly you're still hoping the other person will notice, appreciate it, and come back on their own. That's not dignity. It's the same dependency, just dressed up nicer. Many people pretend to be composed while actually trying to win through silence what they already lost through chasing. The difference is simple. Someone still playing the game keeps looking toward the other person. The reply, the gesture, the sign still matters to them. Someone who has genuinely let go doesn't need to make an impression anymore. They're not silent for effect. They just no longer feel the need to explain themselves to someone who didn't want to listen in the first place. That's what real maturity looks like. Not performed coldness, not a show of indifference, not punishing someone with absence, just plain clarity. I was treated the way they saw fit, so I'm no longer investing here. Baltasar Gracian advised never showing your wound to the one who struck it. As long as you're delivering your silence as a message, you're still standing in front of that person. But when you leave internally, without a scene, without posturing, without needing to prove anything, that's when you gain real weight. The question worth asking. A more useful question isn't, why did they do that? Or, what did I do wrong? But this, why does the opinion of someone who once treated you however they please still matter so much to you? While you keep analyzing their motives, their character, their words, you're still orbiting them. But the point was never really about them. It's about why their decision attached itself so deeply to you. Why did one person's choice become a measure of your own worth? This is where many people lose years, studying the other person far too closely while barely looking at what's shaky inside themselves. If you could be knocked off course for a long time, just because someone turned away, the issue isn't only their behavior. It means too much of your worth was tied to external validation, to being chosen, recognized, kept, ranked above others. Marcus Aurelius said the value of anything equals what you're willing to give up for it. If you're giving weeks, months, and your own peace of mind for someone else's opinion, you've priced it far too high yourself. Explanations don't work. Some things people hold on to simply out of a need to do something, and almost always it only lowers them in others' eyes and their own. Explanations don't work. Attempts to stir sympathy don't work. Hoping for a calm, adult conversation once the other side has already decided everything usually doesn't work either. In these moments, people think they're acting with dignity and honesty, but from the outside, it often looks like asking for the verdict to be reconsidered. Once you've already been pushed aside, extra words rarely add to your standing. More often, they just show you're still there, still waiting. La Rochefoucauld noted that we usually love more deeply the people we care for than the people who care for us. The more words you pour into it, the more attached to it you become. How real weight is built. As long as someone wants to change another person's decision, they're the weaker one. The moment they start building their life without looking back at that decision, real weight appears, not for show. This isn't about pride or playing it cool. It's about order in your own head. No longer waiting for the perfect moment, no longer hunting for hidden meaning in something that's already been made obvious, no longer making another person the center of your attention. Plutarch noted that a person's character is revealed once they gain strength. That's exactly the strength here. Not revenge, not persuasion, not scenes, just refusing to give yourself to someone who has already decided you're a convenient option. The trap of the old verdict. Many people keep living, working, getting tired, handling their own affairs, while still measuring themselves against an old story in their heads, as if that one person delivered a final verdict that now has to be overturned or endlessly argued with. Looked at clearly, that's absurd. No single person can be the measure of your entire worth unless you put them in that position yourself. Montaigne said, people suffer less from events themselves than from their own view of them. As long as you see the past as proof of your weakness, it keeps holding you. The moment you see it simply as a fact that should make you more selective about people, everything changes, not the event, but your stance toward it. What real victory looks like. Many people fool themselves into thinking victory means the person who once rejected them will eventually regret it, come back, seek them out, and say different words. It sounds appealing, but it's still the same dependency. The outcome still hinges on someone else's move. Real victory is quieter. It's the point where you no longer need to prove anything to someone who once chose to treat you without respect. Not because you became kinder or superior, but because it's no longer worth spending your energy on. Not winning them back, not forcing the issue, not rewriting the ending. Just reaching a place where someone else's choice no longer controls your mood, your decisions, or your self-worth. Publilius Syrus observed that the heaviest loss is the loss of time. Too many people lose months and years not because of the rejection itself, but because they never close that door in time. Real strength is a door closed not for show, not out of resentment, but because your own life matters more than someone else's late understanding. What to do next? The wrong lesson to take from experiences like this is to become hardened toward everyone. That's a cheap overcorrection. The right lesson is different. Access to you should cost more. Less trust given up front, less trying to please, less overlooking what already bothers you from the start. Baltasar Gracian warned against opening the door to the lesser evil, because greater evils tend to follow it in. This isn't about suspicion, it's about order. If a lesson isn't learned the first time, life tends to repeat it without going easy on you. So the strong move after rejection isn't dramatic suffering. It isn't vowing to never trust anyone again. It's raising your standards for who's allowed close in the first place. The central idea: the person who once pushed you away isn't obligated to eventually realize anything, come back, acknowledge your worth, or regret their choice. You could wait for that indefinitely, but you don't need to wait, because from the moment someone else's decision stops being the main event of your life, you gain something you didn't have before: solid ground under your feet. Not because the world became fair or people became better, but because you stopped handing your own place in your own life to someone who never earned it. Epicurus said poverty isn't having little, it's needing more than you have. As long as you need someone else's recognition or their belated understanding, you're dependent. Once your own clarity is enough, a great deal simply falls away. So the bottom line is simple. Real victory isn't being chosen again someday. It's that after everything, you never again put yourself last for someone who didn't deserve that place.